Welcome to Spiritual Vacancy, the space where we stop running from the void and start filling it. I'm Brooke Ann, I'm a professional psychic medium, and in each episode we dive deep into the practices, stories, and insights that turn spiritual hunger into spiritual wholeness. If you've been feeling like something is missing, you're in the right place. Let's fill the gap together, and your journey starts now. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are listening to this at. I welcome you into the podcast. And today it's going to be a little different because I am going to be interviewed by my friend Deanna. And I met her mom and her as clients, but now we've kind of grown as friends who I absolutely adore. And she reached out to me with this great idea where she was like, why don't I interview you? And ask you questions. And I absolutely loved that idea. So that is what today's episode is going to be on. So thank you, Deanna, for having such an awesome idea and for doing this and putting this together and coming up with the questions. And by the way, I don't know the questions, so it's going to flow. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I am excited. So Deanna's actually got a lot going on, so her even fitting this in is amazing because she's about to close on her first house in about, gosh, a week and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Uh-huh. So
Days.
like, yep, it's gonna be close. And her mom is getting a new puppy, and I can't wait to see it.
So exciting.
But so she's got a lot going on, so I just appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. And so I will let you have the stage.
Okay. All right. I'm excited to do this. So I guess I will start off with question one. So how do you receive information? Is it through vision, sounds, or feelings?
So it's actually from all of the above.
Okay.
So when I connect with spirit, I can see them, I can hear them, I can feel them, and sometimes, it's just a knowing. So it's kind of like that intuition where it's like, oh, you just know, but you're like, I didn't feel anything, I didn't see anything, like what is going on, right? And it's like, I don't know why I knew, I just knew. And that is part of connecting to spirit, but everybody does it differently. And it can be challenging sometimes too to understand what spirit is showing you,
Mhm.
right? Because if they show you a vehicle, like if they show me a car, but it might mean a train, or it might be a different type of vehicle that I'm not like super familiar with, but they're going to show it to you in ways that you can understand. But you might hear a car instead of see a car, or you might feel like what it would be like driving. Does that make sense?
The way you interpret it could be different at times.
Definitely. So, like, have you had any, like, I know you're fully connected to spirit. I know you are, but do you feel like you can do all of them, or do you feel like one is stronger than the other?
I feel like for me, I feel a lot. I remember this one time, I had broke up with my ex-boyfriend on Valentine's Day, and I felt somebody hug me in my sleep, and it was just the way my grandpa used to bear hug me. Like he
Oh,
used to just hug all of me. And I
yeah,
woke up and I was like, oh my God, I think that was my grandpa hugging me. And I woke up like crying because it was like, it was just the way he hugged me.
yeah, because it
Yeah.
was real. It
Yeah.
was him.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I
Yeah.
love that. Because
Yeah.
that is like you can't deny it, right?
Mhm.
Especially when you wake up emotional knowing that
Yeah.
it's true. But yeah,
Mhm.
I think everybody kind of, but I think you can second guess it, right?
Yes.
Like be like, was it just my imagination? Was I dreaming? Was
Yeah.
it just I wanted it to be so much them that it was them, right? But it truly is though, because we get in our own way of the seeing, the feeling, the sensing, the knowing, the tasting, the smelling, like all the different clairs.
Mhm.
But you could be better at feeling emotions or feeling your loved ones, and somebody else could be better at seeing them, or they don't see it all, they only hear,
Mhm.
and they're like, no, I heard a voice or I heard this word, and they're like, I don't see nothing. I don't
Yeah.
feel
And
anything. I
then you
don't,
think you're the crazy one.
yeah, exactly.
Like,
Because we're
what's
like,
going on here? Am I lucid?
pretty much.
Right. Okay. All right. Awesome. Um, Let's see. I may or may not know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So what tools do you use? For example, would it be crystals, tarot, psychometry with objects, psychic mediumship?
So I think in the beginning, right, of my development, I wanted to try all the tools, right? So I would try tarot or, psychometry or, you want to test everything out and then feel what's right for you. But
Mm-hmm.
then in the end, the more you develop, the more you realize that those are just kind of things that we think we need, but really it's all within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So with those things that we study, or like the psychometry or the tarot, what it is getting you to trust what you already know, right? Because you could be tapping in and already know the answer, but if you can see it, so if like the psychometry is telling you, yes, that's exactly what it is, you could have gotten it without that object. You just don't trust yourself without that object, right? So I always say it's almost like when you're a little kid, you have that blankie that you want to hold on to forever, or you have that, the object that goes with you throughout your life because you don't want to let it go. It's
Yeah,
like your
that was
little,
me and my little baby. I wouldn't go anywhere without that thing.
but that's what it is with
Right.
developing mediumship. You
Mhm.
don't want to let it go because you feel like something's going to be missing, but really, you are the tool. You
Mhm.
don't have to have anything, but the problem with when we develop this ability of trusting is it's not tangible. We can't see it. So therefore, if we can't see it, it doesn't make sense, right? So that's why development is so important to get you to trust with the psychometry of holding someone's object. You didn't need that object. All
Mhm.
you had to do was tap into the energy of whatever you're supposed to tap into, and that would come into you, right? Because you're setting that intention. But because you have that object, now we think that this is exactly what we're supposed to be saying. We're focusing on it. We can touch it. We can feel it. We can see it. So therefore, it makes it more real than if we didn't have it.
Mhm.
But really, if you were to set that item aside, you could still do the same thing. You just wouldn't trust it as much.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's why development and sitting in circle and doing practices and working with crystals and working with tarot cards, because I always want to challenge people like, so say you have tarot cards, right? Or say you have a friend that comes over and they're like, will you pull me some cards? Instead of pulling those cards, tap in to see what you get and then pull the cards because that's you trusting your intuition and then the cards are validating it.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? Because you want to trust what you're getting, but you're like, no, 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 no. I'm probably crazy, so I'll just pull the cards and then they'll tell me exactly what you need to hear. When really, it's your energy pulling those cards for them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Let's see, what's next? Do you connect with spirit guides or deceased loved ones?
Or deceased what?
Loved ones.
Oh, yes, definitely deceased loved ones. The spirit guides can be tricky though, because if you've never met them or you don't know what they look like or you don't know who they are. Sometimes that can be kind of like that gray area of, I don't want to put what I'm seeing onto you. I would rather you meet your spirit guides organically. And then if you were to come to me and be like, I know my spirit guides, and then let me tap into that to get the validation of who I'm seeing, right? Because I feel like sometimes when people are like, oh, your spirit guides are here, and then you're like, who are they? And they're like, it's a woman in white. And it's like, okay, could you be more specific?
Yeah, right.
But I always say, like, I want everybody to meet their spirit guides on their own, right? Because we all have them. We have like think there's definitely five or six that are we're born with, and then we have all the archangels that are spirit guides. So we've got at least like 12, 13
Oh,
spirit guides with us wherever we go.
wow.
And so, but they're usually like spirit guides are not people that have been in this life with us, but they've been in past lives with us. So it's not going to be like, your grandpa, your grandma, things like that, because you never physically met them. So
Mhm.
that's why it's so important where I say you should meet your spirit guides first. You
Hmm.
should have that relationship with them. Are they male or female? What do they look like? Who are they? And try to get names in their like their time frame. Are they from the 1700s, 1800s, early 1900s? What do they look like? You know what I mean? And what is their role? What do they do for you? And I feel like that's important for people to do that on their own because I feel like if you go see a medium, it's just too general. If you don't know who your guides are, there's no validation, there's no, back and forth. You would just have to accept whatever the medium says
Right.
because you can't say it's wrong
Hmm.
because you don't
You
even
don't
know.
know. Yeah.
No, so you
Yeah.
don't know. So I always say, always get that relationship first
Hmm.
before seeking out your spirit guides. But I always say, if you're trying to connect to your spirit guides, you already know the answer to your question.
Hmm.
You just want the validation that you're doing the right thing.
Mm. That's interesting.
Hmm.
Love that. Okay. How do you differentiate psychic insights from your own thoughts?
Okay, so that can be tricky. That can be a very much it can be hard. It can be hard because we are human still, right? No matter how much you're developed or how much you put into work, sometimes setting our human brain aside can be difficult, especially if it's something that, like, say, I'm going through. And then somebody's coming to me for a psychic reading, and if it feels like my life, that's kind of weird. So then I'm like, is this my life? Or is this actually their life? Like, why do I keep seeing my life, right? So then it might be challenging, like, oh gosh, I hope I'm saying this right, because that's where it can get like confusing. Because when spirit shows you your own stuff, that can be hard because then that's hard to decipher. Is it mine or is it not? So, like for an example, sadly, one of my friends lost her dog, and the next day I had a session online. The woman lived in a different state, and she had lost her dog. Now, they were named the exact same name, and it wasn't a common name. I just never would have picked up on it because I just had this conversation with her the night before. I just was talking to her the day before. That name is so familiar to me. I don't expect my client the next day to have the same name as one of my best friend's dogs.
Mm.
And her dog departed, and my best friend's dog departed all recently. So
Wow.
if it wasn't the same name, it might have been a little different for me, but they were definitely different looking dogs. But when I asked my client, I said, well, what is your dog's name? And she told me, and I was like, oh my God, that is so crazy. That name never would have come out of my mouth because I was just discussing it the night before, and I would have never thought that I would need to use that the next day.
Wow, that's wild.
So that's where it can get tricky with psychic work or mediumship work, where when it is so parallel to our own lives, sometimes I don't think to discuss it because it's my life at that point. It's not theirs. So I'm like trying to decipher the difference. And that's where that gray line is, right? But then it will also get to it where, being a psychic medium, you don't want to change the information. You might interpret it incorrectly, but you can't change it, right? You cannot change what you're getting, but you can change the situation, if that makes sense, right?
Right.
So like say, um, what was it? The other day, I forgot what it was. And it was something that I was thinking about because I'm like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And it's not this, but it's like kind of like military, right? So say somebody's in the military, but say they're like in the what's the other, like a police, it's not military, but you have a uniform, you're of service, you're protecting, your military is protecting your country, protecting your land. Police is kind of like that, except it's a city, right?
Right.
So like if you're saying, oh, were they in the military, and they're like, no, and then you have to kind of change it and be like, okay, well, somebody is protecting something. Somebody is very proud of who they are. Somebody's very proud of what they do. They're proud of their career. And then you're like, so were they a police officer? Because that's someone protecting to serve. And they're like, yes.
Mm.
So it's the interpretation of spirit to ours.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. Because that's where it can get tricky too. Because now, if they were to say, no, he's an artist, okay, that would not fit.
Right. Right. Of
That
course.
would be like, that
It's totally out of
sounds,
there.
be like, okay, that would not make sense then for what the medium is picking up on. But
Right.
is the protect and serve how we view it? You just know that the facts are there, but the interpretation might be incorrect depending on what spirit is showing me to get to say it.
Okay.
They're showing me, well, it's protect and serve. There's a uniform, there's proudness, there's medals, there's acknowledgement of their work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was a police officer. It wasn't actually military. But to me, that's the same thing. It's protect and serve. Different line of work.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where that trickiness, that's a good question because that it can get tricky with interpretation in our own personal lives.
Hmm.
hmm
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So before readings, do you like to meditate or sage before each client?
Yes, I do both.
Okay.
I sage in between each client. I sage when I get to the office. I sage my house every day. I mean, I just like light it, let it go. I love the way it smells. So
Yeah.
I'll just leave it in the kitchen. I'll let it go. I can smell it. It just smells so good.
Hmm.
And it just cleanses the air. It's not like a full house cleansing, right? Where you have to have the front and back door open and there's negative energies. But sage is actually a good like antibacterial type thing. It actually cleanses the air as well. So
Mhm.
it can clear if you're feeling down or you got like congestion. It's always good to burn some sage. And I do meditate before each session because what I'm doing is I'm pretty much connecting to my guides and my spirit team to get ready to work, to remove my own thoughts, to please not let me have my own daily shit. So, like today, I wasn't feeling good. I promise you, my clients don't care. They don't care if I'm not feeling good. I still have to show up. I can feel miserable up until the time I open the door, they come in, I have to work, right? Spirit doesn't care if I don't feel good. My clients don't care. The most important is connecting with their loved ones. So when I meditate, it's just me getting in that mind frame of I have to leave my shit in the car. I
Mhm.
cannot have any of my own emotions, thoughts, or feelings come into this next session. And what do they need to hear right now for their highest good?
Mhm.
So, and that's how I kind of leave it. Because meditation is good just in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all of our daily lives are so crazy. They're so hard. There's so much everybody's got going on. And it's nice just to take that moment, not even to connect with spirit, but just empty your thoughts.
Mhm.
Like, not worry about anything for a second. Just literally focus on the meditation or the music, and that's it. And
Mhm.
really just be in the moment because I feel like all of us are so focused on what's to come. What are we doing later? What's going on in an hour? When am I eating? When is this? What's on my schedule
True.
for tomorrow? We
Yeah.
don't sit
Go,
in,
go, go. Yeah.
yes, we
Mhm.
don't sit in the present.
Right.
And in meditation, it makes us sit for even 10 minutes in the present moment where
Mhm.
we're not focused, like turn your phone off, make sure everything's, away from you, and just be present. That's
Mhm.
it. So I think it's helpful for everybody to meditate, honestly. But
Mhm.
yes, I do. I sage and meditate every
Hmm.
day.
I love that. Is there like a specific amount of time you do it, like before each client? Is it like 15
Oh,
minutes or 20
it
minutes? Does it
It could
vary?
be 5 minutes. It could be, because pretty much I'm just setting that intention. I'm not one that likes to be late though. So like I am early to work. I do like to get situated. I like to have my water. I like to burn my sage, light the candles, just kind of sit in silence for a little bit with no meditation, no nothing. Maybe check some emails, get some work done and just kind of be because I'm not one I hate like I don't like being late. I don't want to be rushed or feel like that feeling because I've had
Racing
that.
from work, yeah.
Yeah, I've had
Yeah.
that feeling for a long time. And then I realized, if I just got up earlier, if I just planned my day better, it's like I realized with me, it's so freeing to be early. I didn't realize like there's no stress. If I'm in traffic, oh well, I've got plenty of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's nothing to worry about.
No. So it's like, and if you're early, you're good. So that's kind of like how I do it. It doesn't have to be a long meditation. It
Mhm,
really doesn't. It could be 5 minutes a day. It's just setting the intention, getting ready to work, and just telling my team, like, please give me the words that
mhm,
need to be heard today. Please let me be the vessel for whatever it is they need to hear.
mhm.
And that's it.
Wow, that's cool. I need to meditate more.
Yes, yes, you do. It's good for every soul. And I always say too, if you have a hard time meditating, right? Because your brain is going, still thinking on
Thousand
what's
miles
the,
a minute.
yes. Try to do it at night when you go to bed and just fall asleep to it. Doesn't matter if you're not taking it in because subconsciously you are. But
Mhm.
like just put it on, like find a sleep meditation, like a sleep guided meditation, turn it on, lay down, and start listening. I promise you'll be asleep in no time.
Pro tip for everyone that needs to meditate like me.
Exactly.
Oh man. All right. Moving on. When did you first realize you had this gift?
It took me a long time and I still wasn't really sure what was happening, even when it happened. I think we're all connected to spirit in a different, different way, other ways, how we communicate. And I'm not the typical, I saw spirit at 4 years old. And, a lot of times I think there's like a stigma around that where if you didn't see spirit at a young age, you're not a medium. Or you're not connected, or you're not this, right? But everybody's journey is so different. Some people do see spirit at a young age, which is totally fine. But their story is the same where they block it, they grow out of it, they don't trust it. There's change and growth, right? Because a lot of them say it just went away, right? But it's because you still have to live your life. You still have to go on about what you're doing on the daily. So it took a long time. So I actually smoke pot. I'm very honest about my past. I've done drugs and a lot of drugs, lots of drinking. I smoked pot until my early 30s and I had started smoking cigarettes when I was 12 and I smoked on and off for many years. And then my son was 10, so he is 23. He's going to be 24. So what is that? 13 years ago, something like that.
Hmm.
So about 13 years ago, I quit smoking cigarettes. And then I was like, well, if I can quit smoking cigarettes, I probably should quit smoking pot. And when I quit smoking pot, everything flooded in. Like I was having panic attacks, I was having anxiety. I had never had this in my life. I didn't know what a panic attack was. I didn't know what anxiety was. I had no freaking clue. And it was freaking me out. So I went to therapy. I went and saw a counselor. That did absolutely nothing for me because we couldn't really figure out what this was stemming from, right?
Hmm.
And then I started having fear of bridges. I was driving over the Charleston Bridge and I thought I was going to die. I started crying hysterically. I didn't know what was going on. I still have a hard time with bridges to this day. I will cry going over a bridge, and I cannot go over the Charleston Bridge ever since that episode, and that was like 13 years ago. And I can do little bridges, but I still cry on like larger bridges.
Hmm.
And then I went to my doctor's. I got on anxiety medicine because I said, I don't know what is going on with me, but I don't like it. This is awful. Like I feel like I'm dying every day. If I'm in a crowded room, if I'm at work, I feel like I just want to lay on the floor and cry or run away. I don't know what's happening. And so I went on anxiety medicine and it was such a high dose that I remember I had my one of my best friends had lost her mom and we were sitting at the funeral and I didn't cry. Like it had depleted me of all my emotions, this medicine that I was on. And I looked at my husband and I said, this is wrong. I don't want to be emotionalist. So I guess I'll take the anxiety over. I'm like, I can't believe I'm not crying. This is crazy. I knew her mom. Like, this is my best friend's mom. So that was like such an awful feeling to not have any emotion around. Like I just felt like I was numb to the world. Nothing mattered. I had no expressions. I didn't have highs. I didn't have lows. It was just nothing. And that's not me because I'm very emotional. And so I quit the anxiety medicine after that cold turkey. My doctor did not like that at all. She was like, you could have had seizures or I don't know, whatever. And I said, well, I can't, I'm not doing this. I cannot change who I am. I guess I'll deal with the anxiety and stuff like that. And so it started coming where I started seeing orbs or I started feeling feelings or I started seeing like hearing people at work. And I'm like, why the fuck do I know this shit? Why do I know what's happening with them? And I remember one of the instances where I'm at work, I'm waiting tables and this couple that we know, like their son was standing behind them, deceased, going like, "Will you please tell them I didn't do it on purpose?" And I'm like, "What the fuck?" And I
Mhm.
ran over to Michelle and I said, "Michelle, what's going on with that couple?" And she goes, "They just lost their son." And I'm like, "Oh my God." Because I didn't say anything to the couple. Nothing. I said nothing, no word, no nothing. I
Mhm.
was just like, I'm just trying to take their order. Like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
And then I said, "Oh my God, he told me that, it wasn't on purpose." And she goes, "Well, he OD'd and he had been clean and then he OD'd. So he was doing really good and he didn't mean to do it." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I never told them. I never said, I didn't know." I'm like, "What? Why? What is happening? Like, why is this coming to me now?" Like, I've always been interested in psychic and mediums my whole life. I find it fascinating. To say that I would ever be one, no way. I would never say that I'd be communicating. It's just kind of like how my path took me. And
Mhm.
then things just started progressing where I would know more and I know more. And I'm like, I don't know why I know this, right? So it was like a 4 year journey into trying to figure out what the heck was going on with me before I went to my first development circle. And I still was sitting there going like, this is fucking crazy. I am so dumb. Why the fuck am I sitting here? Like, I just wanted to leave. I was like, in my mind, my soul was jumping out of my body and I wanted to like run the fuck out of that class. There's probably like there was probably like 8 or 10 people in this class, right? I'm
Wow.
sweating like profuse. I could feel the sweat rolling down my back. I'm so nervous.
Mhm.
And the very first exercise we did was psychometry. So we passed the basket around and I grabbed a man's watch. Obviously, I knew it was a man's. It was huge, right? You could tell like it's a man's watch. And I remember this so vividly because this was like my aha moment of proving like, oh fuck, this is real. Like this what I'm seeing is fucking real. And as I'm holding the watch, I just feel like my back hurts really bad. I'm like doing landscaping, I'm moving bricks. I'm like I mean just my body hurt. I'm doing this manual labor, but I'm doing like flower beds and shit outside, right? And so they're going around the class, and I am like wanting to cry because I'm like, oh my God, this is so dumb. I didn't know anybody. I just saw it online and went, right? And I'm sitting there holding this watch, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a dumbass. Like, I'm gonna bomb, and this is gonna be the dumbest shit that has ever come out of my mouth. And so they're like, your turn. And I probably went white as a ghost because I'm like, okay. So I have this watch, and I say what I get.
Yeah.
And the guy in the class, he goes, "That's mine. I'm a landscaper, and I'm out of work because I hurt my back." And I was like, the fuck? I was like, that was my aha moment with all the crazy shit I had already experienced prior. Like, okay, there's something to this. And when I left that class, I actually drove past my house by almost an hour because I didn't even, wasn't even paying attention on 31 because it was in Little River. I was coming back from Little River and I'm like driving. I'm ending up like on 501 and my exit is off of 22. And I'm like, oh my God. But my mind couldn't process, like, I was still, even in the car, like, I did that? Like, I did, like, well, how did I get that? Why did I know that? Like, I had so many questions for how did that work? Why did I know that with that? So that was like the beginning. And then I just dove in and I started studying it. And I studied it for 5 years before I became professional because I feel, for me personally, everybody's journey is different. And I still take classes to this day because I still don't know everything. I still will never know. I mean, spirit is infinite, right? We're the ones with limitations. Spirit is endless. But the thing is, In that 5 year study, I had three different mentors, like one-on-one mentors. I took several hundred of several classes, tons of practice sessions, meeting other mediums on this journey, watching how other developing mediums work compared to how I worked with no judgment. But if I liked it, I would try to work that way. If I didn't, I would leave it. I mean, there's so much to this type of work because there's no handbook.
Hmm.
There's nothing that says, here you go, here you aced it, because even with my certificates from my mentors, that means nothing to me. Because that would be great with them, but my client or somebody I might be reading next is totally different and something I might not be familiar with. So that's where it's like the more and more you study, the more you practice, the more you work, the better and easier it becomes. Because it is difficult, but if you don't practice consistently or you don't trust what you're getting, which was my problem,
Hmm.
it's just going to be sporadic. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? It's just going to come in when you don't want it or you don't understand it or you might be scared to say it. And that's why development in a safe place, like in my circle or online, or you find groups, that is giving you that opportunity to trust yourself, to know it's okay if you get it right or wrong, it doesn't matter, but you showed up.
Right.
You showed up to practice. And what you think is one thing, somebody else can think is a totally another thing. And that's why I don't know if you were in the classes were you in the any of the circles where I did the words, where I had everybody say the meaning of a word and everybody had to go around what it meant to them.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And you saw how different, like a lot of people where it's not the same.
Hmm.
But it was just that one word. That's the same with spirit. That one word can, if you say it wrong, it means something totally different for somebody else and they won't understand it.
Yes. Yep.
And so that's the same with spirit. That's why development is important. That's why constantly practicing is important. But we all can do this.
Hmm.
If you have your heart set on it, if you want to dive into it, if you want to work on it, do it.
Hmm.
Because there's not a I don't believe that when people are like, "Oh, I was born with it." Well, honey, we all were.
Hmm.
We're all energy. We can all do it. Just how much do you want to do it? That's the thing, though. Because
Hmm.
you have the people that reject it completely, that don't want any part of it, that are like, "Nope, nope, that's evil. Nope, can't do it. Not doing it, right?" They don't
Yeah.
want to do it. They think it's devil's work and evil and they won't, but they will still have those moments of their intuition, and then they'll say, "Oh wow, God said this." And it's like, okay, well, for one, if you talk to God or Jesus, they're both dead. They
Hmm.
rose from the dead. You're talking to spirit. So what we're doing is no different.
Hmm.
We're just communicating to a different spirit.
Hmm.
But who met God? Who met Jesus?
Hmm.
Right? So
Yep.
you're already communicating with a higher power. Now start communicating with people that you actually knew.
Hmm. So interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Journey. It is a journey.
yeah,
Yeah, and not an easy one, that's for sure.
I
It's
bet. I
it's definitely not easy.
bet.
No, it is not easy because there's no handbook. Because
Yeah.
there is nothing to say like,
I have stuff that happens to me sometimes, and I won't know how to interpret it or whatever, you know.
right, be like, what does that mean? What is that? Why am I seeing that?
Am I being? I don't know. Let's see where I'm up to now. So let's see. What is the most challenging aspect of being a medium?
Dealing with grief every day, dealing with heavy emotions of others, right? So depending on how bad they are in grief or how close they were with the person that they lost, because everybody's grief is so different. I'll have some people that come in and they don't cry, and then I have other people that I can barely talk because they're crying the whole time. And then I have other people that are kind of a mix, right? And there's no right or wrong. But the heaviness with me is the hardest part with me is just dealing with death every day because it's not just for one person, it's for multiple people a day. And that's where the heaviness comes in because then I have to remember I'm human. I do need a break from death. Like, miss my loved ones. I could die, like other people could, my child could die. Like there's so many things part of it, right? But that is probably the heaviest part is just having to deal with death, which is not easy. It is not an easy thing to deal with. It's healing, but a lot of times that emotions come back on me, and the stress of being right, the stress of, am I going to connect with the person that they want to hear from today? Am I going to, there's a lot of pressure on mediums that actually care about what they do of, am I going to connect? Am I going to be saying the right words? Am I going to say what they need to hear today? And it can be a high pressure career if I get it wrong, or if I feel like I didn't do as good as I should have, or maybe I should have interpreted it better, or maybe I should have said something differently. But the thing I have to remember is I did my best. I know I'm ethical. I know I did the best of my ability with what I just, that was coming to me because I don't want to ever, I would never lie to anybody. I would never want to just lie just to say stuff. I want to be honest with my clients, but especially when people lose children, that is one of the hardest things, especially when children have grown, you know, and they held them and they saw them and they might be in their 20s or their 30s or, and it puts it in perspective with me because my son's 23. I couldn't imagine losing a child at that age or any age really. And the grief, because our lives are like the parents are supposed to go first naturally, but that doesn't happen all the time. And then depending on the passing, it affects me, it haunts me. Like there are still sessions that I still remember and their children showed me how they passed and it was horrendous. It is in ways that nobody should ever pass. And then I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, wow, I'm letting this bother me, but yet that's their child that they can't touch or call or, I'm the phone call. There is a heaviness. Like I have cried after people's sessions with children. I would never let them know. But I mean, just to feel the emotions and then to know like they're there one day and they're not,
Yeah.
and that I think sometimes people forget I'm human too. Like I can only take so much grief in one day or, and spirit can be funny sometimes because sometimes it'll be all three clients in one day all have lost children and it's just like where and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could do this again, and it's like, oh, it just is like it's hard. That's one of the hardest parts of my job.
Mm.
It's the grief.
Yeah, that's tough. I can't even imagine. Let's see. How do you protect yourself from negative energies?
So I don't fully believe in negative energies on the other side. I feel like we need to protect them from the living. So so I got a sage. I think carrying black tourmaline is great. Like have it on your pocket, in your bra, in your purse, wherever, at your front door, around your house, because black tourmaline repels negative energy. But truly, I have never really ran into a negative spirit. I feel like negative spirits are more fear-based because it's the unknown. We don't see it. And my saying is always, I just don't feel like spirit is walking down the street and they were a negative soul and they're like, you know what? Deanna just got that new house. I think I'm gonna go fuck with her. Like, there's no connection, right? There's no
My
connection. Now,
grandpa be turning my lights on and off.
now that's not negative though.
Oh,
That's a
I know, I
positive.
know.
And
Just
you want to
like,
welcome that. Be
yeah.
like, I welcome you messing with the lights, Grandpa. But the negative spirits are more like negative emotions than actual spirit
Okay.
because I feel like we all have had some really bad lives and then some really good lives, and some people have been through like pure hell with their loved ones. But that's part of the physical experience, not the soul experience, right? So like I have a very like make it make sense type of mind, which is very odd. People think I'm weird because of what I do, but I want it to make sense. I need it to make sense to me for me to believe it, right? And I just don't believe there's negative energies just floating around because I feel like that's part of the human experience, that's part of our brain, that's part of our makeup. You're putting a perfect soul into a broken shell. Because were they born on drugs? Is there mental illness in the DNA? Were they abused as a child? Do you know what I mean? There's so many aspects outside of a soul's control where I want somebody to prove it to me. Like when the soul leaves the body, why would it take that negativity with it if it's just love and light over there?
Mhm.
Not the actual, they don't have the physical form anymore. So
Mm.
that's where it's like, I'm not fully believing that there's like full on negative spirits. But now I do believe you can manifest stuff. I do believe that if you believe in dark energies or you believe in like Satan or the devil or whatever anybody wants to believe in, I do feel like what you speak is what you get. Our words are powerful, whether it's positivity or negativity, right? So if you're calling on purposely negative energies, negative spirits, negative this, that's what their life is going to be.
Mhm.
It's just going to be one negative thing after another because that's what they're manifesting. That's what they're believing. And even with like a poltergeist or an exorcism, I mean, the more that I've studied it or watched, stories about it or documentaries about it, I think it's fascinating that it only happens to one person. Well, if spirit is all knowing and spirit is intelligent, why isn't it affecting everybody in the house? Why is it only affecting the one person? And then when you dive in deeper, they usually have severe health issues. They're on drugs, they're alcoholics, there's depression there. There's a lot with the person, and then they also believe it and they're manifesting it because then they got two other people in the house that haven't experienced anything, haven't seen anything, have no idea what they're talking about, but yet that one person does, but they usually have a lot of shit going on in their life. And they're at a very dark place in their own life, which can almost bring that on. And then it's that feeling of when you have a priest or a shaman or other things like that come into the space and you have them cleanse the space and then it's gone. Well, is it gone because that's the placebo effect? Is that gone because the person with all the negative, like energy and the negative thoughts and what they're doing believes that it's gone? Because I'm like, if it's that easy, why doesn't the person that is experiencing it start changing their mindset? Because all they had to do is have anybody come over and say, I'm blessing the house, I'm doing a cleansing, I'm doing this, right? And it's gone. It's like magic.
Mhm.
It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't, for me, it's got to make sense. And
Mhm.
if it would take more than like a priest or a shaman or someone coming over to cleanse the space to get rid of a freaking poltergeist, right? It doesn't make sense. It's got to make sense to me. And I think there's more to it than what we see, but I feel like it's all part of the human experience, not the souls.
Okay. Wow.
That's my perspective. I know it's like a different perspective, but I've done a lot of research and studying, and I tell this to everybody I talk to. So I watched a documentary about this little boy, right? He was like 7 or 8. He killed his whole family. You don't think about a 7 or 8-year-old killing your whole family, right? And I don't know if it's like a neurosurgeon or a brain surgeon, whatever it is, was looking at the x-rays of his brain after he departed. And the surgeon goes, I have never seen a brain look like this before. Well, my my antenna went off and I'm like, so it's not the soul. It's the brain, it's the parts. I mean, if you have a car and it has a shitty engine, your car will look fine. But if your engine shit, it's shit. But
Mhm.
nobody would know that.
Right.
Nobody would know that the engine isn't working or there's parts that are messing up because you have a brand new car and it looks shiny and new. And this is a 7-year-old boy. But I'm like, at that point, that's not his soul. His soul is in a flawed brain. His soul is in a flawed body. For him to do that, for him to lack the empathy, for a child to do that. And that's where it made me think about, like, okay, there is so much more with the human aspect of our soul, where at that point you cannot say that child is evil. You just can't. Because the thing is, his brain is evil, not his soul.
Right.
Because his brain is controlling his thoughts, his movements, his ideas. And it's same with the people with like bipolar or manic depression. Why do you not have it, but they do? What is the missing link? What is different? And it's all here. It's all what's making us function, making us work, making us move and groove. And it's the same with the car, to put it in perspective. You get in that brand new car and you expect it to go somewhere and then it doesn't. You're like, but it looks fine. That's the same with people that are, serial killers, things like that. There is something wrong here.
Yeah.
There's something wrong in their head and their brain. And yes, I have met people where I'm like, I would never want to be around them because it's like it's black, like their soul's gone. You know what I mean? Like that saying, like their soul is gone, because it truly is. It's almost like their soul is gone and the human form is taken over, and it's not even like there's nobody left in there. The soul is missing. And I do believe that in some people where the good soul's already it left the body, and the body's just kind of moving and doing really bad things on its own.
Mm. Wow.
So I hope that makes sense.
It does.
Okay. I'm like, I hope that makes it. Not saying, and I'm sure there might be like, I don't want to like say there's no negative spirits, or I have not encountered any, and I have been in some very dark places. But it's the fear around the dark place that makes it negative. And I'm not scared of it, so I didn't experience any negative stuff, right? But I'm like, if you put somebody that's really scared of this dark space or this old jail and 500 people died here and all this stuff, you're already walking in there scared. And when I went in, I'm like, there's a bald guy following us around. And I actually got him on camera. I got him on my video, the bald guy following us around. That was one of my best pieces of evidence. And he was just sad. He just wanted to tell a story because I asked the tour guide. I said, has any mediums or anything like that talked about this bald guy? And I told my husband, I was like, he's just following it, he's just watching us. But I feel like he's sad. But the thing is with the jail,
Mhm.
they had no records of anybody. None of the inmates. They had zero. And this was a jail in St. Augustine, Florida. And we did the overnight paranormal tour. And there's a heaviness with it because there's a lot of sadness. There was a lot of bad things that happened there, but there's not like evil spirits there, right? And I told my husband, I said, there's a bald man following us around the whole time. Never really thought anything about it. We come back home. We come back to the beach like 2 days later from St. Augustine, and I'm like, oh, I should probably like look through all my footage. And no shit, there's his face
Oh my.
like this, staring through a jail cell where there's a bar right here. You could see his nostrils, his lips, his bright ass bald head, his eyes, and he's just staring. And it's the best piece of evidence I have ever got on video. And I'm like, that's who was following us. I was like, that's the bald guy. I was like, that's him. But to have the validation of that, where he wasn't scary, he's just sad. He just had a story to tell, but nobody would know who he is because there's no records of anything. So that makes it even sadder, you
Mhm.
know?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Let's see. How do you deal with skeptics?
So I think healthy skepticism is great. I think everybody should have, which is funny because that happened today. So
I
it's
would
funny.
never do that.
It's funny how you asked that, which was so funny because that literally happened today. And I had two sisters come in for my last session today, and they just booked under the name Jamie, right? No last name, which is fine. I don't care. Just show up, right? And when the sisters came in, because I didn't know what the other sister's name was, it's just a session for two. And they come in and I said, so who's Jamie? And then they both just looked at me and she goes, I am. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, and you are? And she's like, Jessica. And I'm like, okay, are you best friends or sisters or what's happening here? And they're like, we're sisters. I'm like, okay. So we go back. So at the end of the session, I'm like, what was your dad? Because they had lost their dad, sadly. And I said, what was your dad's name? And they were like, well, we kind of lied to you because I'm not Jamie. My name's Stacy. And like, we're really skeptic. So it wasn't their name. Their dad's name was actually Jamie. And I'm like, oh, you're so funny. I said, I was wondering, they kind of paused when I asked them, like, well, which one of you is Jamie? And they're like, I am. And I'm like, okay, it's odd, but whatever. Maybe nervous and you forgot your name. I don't know, And I'm like, names to me are so like not important with the living or the departed. I mean, they're good pieces of evidence. But if you get the personality and who it is and other aspects of them, that's more important than a name. But they both said they were very skeptical. They weren't sure. That's why they didn't put their last name. They used their dad's name. And they were like, we're so sorry we lied to you. And I'm like, I don't care. You could put Bob Jones. I don't care. Oh, whatever. I was like, you can say what any name. I just need you to show up. That's all I need. So I think I think
can
health
vouch for that because I know you.
I just think healthy skepticism is great.
Yes.
I do. I think it's natural. I think it's good, but I don't think it's to the point where you should just constantly say no, 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 and then come back and say, oh yeah, that was right. Oh yeah, that was right. Because that can be very defeating to the medium. So it's like just if you don't understand it, just say, I don't know at this moment, because it can be a lot of information at once. It might come around later. You know what I mean? And I think when people try to fight it, that's when it can get, it's frustrating for me because, it's my energy. You want to talk to your loved one. Maybe I'm interpreting something wrong, but that's not going to be the whole reading. Like that might be one piece of evidence, but if like, so there was one time where this lady, she just didn't understand how I worked or how I communicate, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But I was asking about her mom had departed, and I said, there's something about or dementia around your mom. And she goes, no. And I said, okay, did she ever have like onsets of it? Like, I don't know why she's talking about it. Well, yeah, she kind of started getting it, but no. Okay, but was that a conversation that you had like that? Because not everybody's going to have dementia and Alzheimer's. I mean, some people live a great life and they pass up something totally different. You know what I mean? Well, kind of, but no, I don't know why she'd be bringing that up. And I said, well, if it was a conversation or there was things happening around it or it was beginning to process with her, this is significant. But, she just wanted to push all the information away. But to me, I'm like, if it makes sense, then it's right. If it's even a little bit, right? If you understand a little bit, but some people just want it to be exactly how you want it to say it, but that's not how spirit works. And I try to tell them it's not like having a conversation with you and I. If that was the case, everybody could do this. Everybody would have full-on conversations. Everybody would, if it was that easy, this is stuff you have to work at because it's almost like speaking a different language
Mhm.
with spirit. We can all do this, but you do have to work for it. You do have to study it. You do have to understand because everybody's loved ones are different. So that's where it can get like a little frustrating for me where it's just like I know the points are valid, but it's like they just don't want to take it.
Mhm.
And that I don't understand. I just don't. Because that would be like, did your mom die in a bicycle accident? No. Okay, and if she didn't, then totally fine, right? But I mean, if there's actually conversations of someone dying in a bicycle accident or almost died in a bicycle accident, that would be significant.
Right.
And that's the same thing. So I always say, come with an open mind, and like the thing is with me, I have had more bad readings than good where I have paid for people to tell me the most generic thing and nothing makes sense. Not one thing. Like nothing made sense, nothing clicked, not like I'm like, are we in the same room? Like I don't even know who you're talking about right now. Like I have no clue. because there's not a lot of personality. There's not a relationship. They don't even know who it is really, like how we're connected. They just, like one guy said he was a certified medium and he's a professional medium. And I said, okay, great. I figured this is going to be awesome. You know, I know not every medium's 100%. And all he goes is like, oh, well, there's a guy, like a tall guy standing behind you wearing a black trench coat and a black hat. Okay, do you know who he is? No. Okay, so you don't know who this man is. Don't know any
Tell
part of
me
the.
his name so I don't go there. Just
I
kidding.
just, I just was like, and it was so generic, right? It was just really bad. And there was nothing that like hit. Like I'm just waiting for something to hit or anything. Be like, is this your grandfather? I mean, he never even asked. He's just like rambling on about this guy in a trench coat. And I'm like, literally, I have no clue who wears a trench coat that's departed. And I have several people on the other side. I don't understand the significance. So let's like move on from the significance and get into the personality or who they were. And there was just never anything. You know, it was like, oh, well, I just know he really loves you and he watches over you. He's kind of like your guardian angel and he does this. And I mean, it was just like a bunch of filler words where I'm like waiting for names or dates or anything, anything at all, anything, just something that makes sense. Like my grandfather was an alcoholic. Is it my grandfather? Say he's an alcoholic. Say he died of a heart attack. Say he died young. Say like he was in the army. Just anything. Nothing. Not one thing. And that was the end of the reading. And it was disappointing because if you're going to say you're a certified medium, you're professional, and nothing makes sense, that's tough. That's
Yeah.
tough, man. That and I come with an open mind. I'm like ready. I have all my loved ones that are deceased. Like, come on in. Something, give me something. And you know, like my grandmother, she was awful. She was the biggest bitch. And I've had several practice readings with other developing mediums, and they all say she's so nice and lovely. And I'm just waiting for the medium to be like, I don't think she was that nice because nobody said it. No, but I think that's part of the human brain to think, just assume everybody had a good relationship with their grandma, or their grandma was like the cookies and the milk and the,
True. That's true.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is the case a lot of the times, right? That can be actually legit sometimes. But
Mhm.
like my grandma was mean. Like she was nasty, nasty woman.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I had a grandma that had her moments too.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Well,
Um,
hopefully she didn't say you were a little fucking bitch. Hopefully she didn't say that all the time.
I mean,
Did
not
she?
all the time. She said it, but not all the time.
Oh, she would call you a little fucking bitch?
Yeah. That was before she saw the truth about the other one, you know.
Did we have the same grandmother?
Crazy. Right. Okay, so we are on to next. Why do you think you were chosen to have this?
Say that again.
Why do you think you were chosen to have this gift?
I have no idea. I honestly didn't even want it. I was like trying everything to push it away. Seriously. I did not ever think I would be professional with it. I didn't think I would ever go outside of just practicing or being around other mediums online or doing things like that. It was actually one of my friends that pushed me to start doing it professionally, to get a website. She's like, Brooke, people need you. People need you to heal them or give them the words or whatever it is, right? But I truly in my life never would have thought I would be doing this. And it's almost like it found me and I have no idea why. Like anytime I read my charts, they're like, "Yep, I know you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing in your life by doing mediumship or communication with spirit, stuff like that." But personally, I never, it wasn't anything that I wanted, honestly, or strive for, or thought I would be, or anything like that. So
Mhm.
I honestly have no idea. I wish I had an answer, but I don't. I just kind of go with it and trust the universe. And I say, if this is what I'm supposed to be doing, show me that I'm supposed to be doing this. And then it's like I just get more bookings or I get more clients coming in, or there's other things where I'm like, okay, so show me the way, spirit. You know what I mean? And then which is crazy. This was so cool. But I worked out of my home for 4 years, right, doing readings. And then the city pretty much shut me down and said I can't work out of my home anymore or anything like that. So I was like, okay, so that's when I got the commercial space with Lee,
Mhm.
and I had to get a business license. And the I was like, show me, am I supposed to be doing this? Like, am I supposed to be continuing doing this or should I just stop now? Like, should I do a commercial space? And when I got my business license in, my license number is 44444 for the city of Myrtle Beach. It's all fours. There's
Wow.
no other number in it.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I see you, Spirit. Okay, I gotcha. You showed me the sign. Because I'm like, I don't even think that's like, how does that happen?
Yeah, that's crazy. I was born at 444.
Were you? So you
Yeah,
got the fours too.
444 p.m.
Oh my God, you got angel numbers on your birthday. That's freaking, or your birth time. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, but that's my license, 44444. And I'm like, do you know how many licenses that are in the city of Myrtle Beach? And my license when I got it was that number,
It's crazy.
not 44441, 44442, 44444. And I'm thinking, well, I see you, Spirit, but honestly, I just never would have thought I would be doing this.
Wow.
No. And I think a lot of people don't.
Hmm.
I think a lot of times it comes into people's lives at an older age or where you're kind of settled, where you're kind of got more like stuff going on. Because I own a restaurant, so I've had my restaurant for 16 years and I still work there on Tuesdays. Like I do my work-life balance. So you have to, right? Like I don't want to talk to the dead every day. I
Right.
just don't. I need a break from it too.
Sure.
But there's, it's not something that I was like, yes. I'm a medium. I want to do that. No, I never had that thought. I just enjoyed it, connecting, seeing what I could get from spirit or what they were showing me because I've always been interested. But I think like if you're supposed to do it professionally, you will. If you're supposed to do it with your peers and family, it will. Or if you're just supposed to do it for yourself, it will. But like I said, we all have it.
Mhm.
I always compare it to singing. You know, we can all sing. Some people sing for their family. They never go public. They never go professional. Some people sing for their town. They're famous in their town. And
My
then
best
some,
friend is famous in Nashville.
is she?
Girl star.
But see, she might never be professional or famous, or she might, right?
Mhm.
Like big time, like make it big. But she might just be happy just being famous in the town, right? That's the same thing with doing psychic mediumship work. You could
Mhm.
do it for yourself, you could do it for your friends and family, you could do it for like your city, or you could become mainstream and do it for a larger venue, a larger audience. But it's all up to you. It's all what you want to do and like how your development kind of unfolds, you know, because your best friend probably pushed herself into putting herself out into that kind of space of being right. But she could have, if she wanted to, she could have just stayed right where she's at and
Mhm.
never became local famous, right? Or famous in Nashville. She could have just done it right from home or to, you know what I mean? But she pushed herself to do it. So there's the difference, you know?
Yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
pushed her to do it too.
Oh, you know.
It's like, you
There's
got
the
this.
friend.
You can do this.
Yeah. See, there's the friend hill. There's the friend.
Like sisters.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. All
That's
right,
so
where are we at? What's a common misconception people have about psychic mediums that you think?
I think that to go back into we're all witches or we're all devils or we're all like evil. And I also think the misconception is that you're supposed to look a certain way. I think a lot of times, like when people see me in person, they're like, oh, I didn't think you were gonna look like that, you know, because my favorite color is pink and I'm very girly and I like bright colors. And they think
How
of
else did you think I was gonna look
they
like?
think I'm, well, actually, one lady said, well, I thought you were going to be like really old and wearing like, you know, like a black dress. And, you know, it's such the stereotype, like the misconception of what they see on TV compared to what is in real life, right? And I think sometimes people think like if you don't have the hippie look or the quote unquote, mainstream spiritual look, like trendy with dreads or this, or, I smoke pot and talk to the dead or whatever, right? Like that type of look, they don't expect somebody to be almost like professional or girly even. Like a lot of people don't think are surprised when I wear pink or I don't have like dark eyeliner or I'm very girly talking to the dead. That's like a misconception around what I do. And then also there's a lot of misconception about how the session is going to go too. About, people like you don't have a crystal ball, you're not going to make the table float, you're not going to do this. And one of the really good compliments was there was a group that Lee and I did, and they booked us for around Halloween. It was just like a group of friends getting together. I think there was 10 of them, something like that. I don't know, and 8 or 9 or 10, something, I forget. And they had said, they thought it was just going to be all bullshit. They thought it was just going to be for fun and entertainment and for, you know, and what they see on like the housewives where they have like the psychic mediums come to the house or whatever. And then when we started working, when I started doing readings, they were like, "Oh shit, this is real. Oh, like you're really fucking talking to my love. Like, oh my God." And then everybody's like crying and they're like, "Oh, we didn't know it was going to be real." But I think that's like the misconception is there's so many fake people out there. There's so many charlatans. There's so many people that just want it for the money. And then when you actually do see somebody that's real, it changes your perspective of what a psychic medium is. Because until then, all you have is what is on TV. It's all that you see. So if there's any kind of like fakeness with it or fun or entertainment, that's what they think. They think it's just going to be for fun. But it's like, no, your loved ones are here, man. Like they're ready to talk. Like they're ready to, support you. But I think that's some of the misconceptions with this type of work.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think of that. Yeah, everything is what they see on TV. Yeah, that's
There's
true. I don't really
there's
watch TV that
no,
much.
I know, but there's a
But
lot
I
of people.
do.
There's a lot of people that do watch TV and
Yeah.
they see like the
Like Teresa Caputo and all that.
well, no, she's real. I love her. Now
I love her.
oh, I love her. She's awesome. But the ones that aren't real are a little more like not as mainstream. They're not like they don't have their own show, but they're coming in like they said the Real Housewives or, stuff
Like
like that. Or
Real Housewives. Yeah,
it's gonna be like entertainment. It's not gonna be real stuff. You know what I mean? So when then they realize it's actually real, and then they're like, oh my God, we weren't expecting this. And that's what I love too, is the like it is real. When you start doing it, it's real.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm on to the last question.
Okay.
That's for last. What is the most rewarding thing about being a medium?
The most rewarding is helping people heal, giving people even a little bit of healing. I know I can't cure their grief, I can't cure their pain, but if I can give them a little healing to let them know that their loved ones are on the other side and they're okay and they're at peace and they're not stuck, they're not in purgatory, they're not in pain anymore. That is the most rewarding thing is when people message me and are like, I changed their life. And then I respond, well, I didn't change your life. Your loved one's dead because I'm just the messenger. I try not to take the credit because truly I'm just the in between. I'm the interpreter for their loved one to them. Really, their loved one did all the work. It's just my job to do it correctly. But the people that message me privately, because I feel like what I do is very sacred. It's not, doesn't need to be public. It doesn't need to have a lot of public recognition because a lot of people don't even want their loved ones to know they've seen me, which is totally fine because it's very confidential on, I would never like I talked about the sessions today because that was funny how they lied, but I would never get into the details of their session or what actually happened because I feel like it is a relationship like your therapist. It does not leave the space, right? And it's not my story, and I'm just there to support you. I'm not there to talk about you or judge you or say anything to you other than what it is you need to hear at that moment. And so the healing is what gives me the most reward for this job. It's just knowing that if I change somebody's life for the better, to them not be fearful of death or just have that moment that their loved one is really with them. Because I think that's one of the main questions that people come with. Like they don't care about anything else. They just want to know, is their loved one in the room? Are they okay? Do they see them? And do they ever leave their side? And no, they don't. They're always with you, they're always around you. And that is the most peaceful because even me to say what happens when we die, I can't say I'm correct
Right.
until I actually do it.
Right.
So, but to give the peace with the people and they didn't say anything about their loved one and just allowing me to communicate fully for their loved one in spirit, it just shows and proves that there is more. And there is a release. There's a healing in that of, you know, you're going from questioning if my loved one's okay to knowing that they're okay.
Hmm.
And just in that moment, it gives them that healing. So hopefully it continues their healing journey because, like I said, grief doesn't go away. But luckily, I get the pleasure of witnessing some of my clients' healing journey. And there's one lady, and I'm still friends with her. And now she's a medium. Now she does mediumship. And I tell her I'm so proud of her because the day that I met her, she lives in New Jersey. And she was broken. She had lost a very significant loved one. And they come through. I mean, her whole face, her demeanor, I mean, she was in pain. She was in pain. And then I saw her like 3 or 6 months later. There was less pain. There was still pain. It was less. Now that woman is a whole different woman. And it's like she's understood her grief. She understands they're always with her. And now she's talking to the dead. So that passing led her into her journey into mediumship. But now, could I say if she went to another medium that might have deterred it if they were fake or false? Maybe. I don't know. I can't say because that didn't happen. But that's why you always want to go to an ethical medium, one that's put in the work, one that has rules for spirit and the client, right? Because I never want shit to get cloudy or go negative or, you know what I mean? And sometimes clients are like, well, what about this? It's like, no, like, let's stop. Like, we're not going to think about that, with your loved one. Like, they're not stuck. They're right here, so it can go into that because that's grief. Grief is never ending journey. Grief is something that will never end, even if somebody gives healing. That's why I say, if I gave somebody even a little bit of healing, just a little bit, in all of that grief, then I did my job. Because that grief can be way bigger than me, them, anybody else, but that's their journey to overcome, not mine, not their loved ones, and everybody handles it different. And there's no right or wrong. I do not judge on how anybody grieves. It's not my place to. It's really nobody's place to judge how anybody grieves their loved ones because one person might need to lay in bed forever. Fine, do it. If that's what you need, who is to say that that's wrong?
Right.
And then other people are back at work the next day. People process it differently. They don't know how to cope. One wants to cope in depression, one wants to cope on keep going and not think about it, and it's not right or wrong.
Right.
But that's, if anything I could do for anybody, if there's any type of healing that I could give them, then I did my job. Then I
Mhm.
did good.
Mhm.
So that's it.
That's always the last question.
Those were good questions.
Thank you.
Those were very good questions. But I hope I answered them to my best of my knowledge. Anybody listening can always have their own opinions. You do not have to agree with me. You can think totally different. I'm not going to judge anybody how they feel. These are just my feelings around certain subjects and what I've learned doing this for so long. So, no right or wrong. I'm not here to judge anybody's journey. I can just tell you mine. So, thank you so much for interviewing me with all these questions. I hope everybody listening in loved them. And if you guys want us to do this again, let me know in the comments if you want me to bring Deanna
I
back.
would love to
And
ask.
what?
Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Oh my God, I love it. You're gonna have to come back.
I will.
Thank you for being here because Deanna is in my development circle too. She's very connected. So is her mother. Like they are very connected to spirit. Now it's just trying to decipher sometimes what they're saying.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But they got it. Trust me. This is why she's here. I always say whoever's sitting in front of me already has it. You just might not know the route, right? But it's there. So thank you so much for doing this and taking this time with me. And I love the idea and I'm glad it worked out. So I thank you so much, Deanna. And I thank you for everybody listening in. Y'all have a beautiful day. I will see y'all next time and namaste.